Hi, everybody. Lisa Tversky here, co-chair of the upcoming Nefesh International Conference, January 7 through 11, and 2026. And I'm here now again with Dr. Robert T. Muller, who is the author of two books on trauma, working with trauma, people who've been through trauma, Trauma and the Struggle to Open Up, and his other book, Trauma and the Avoidant Client, both incredibly important topics. And we're here now to talk about one of the two workshops that we were lucky enough to have Dr. Muller come and speak to us about. And we're going to talk now and hear about the workshop that he's calling Forgiveness, the double-edged sword of trauma therapy. So I'm very interested to hear, thank you for being here, by the way, and
You're
I'm
welcome.
very
You're welcome.
interested here to hear how you're conceptualizing the double-edged sword and what we can hope to understand about that in our work.
For sure, for sure. This workshop comes out of some of the work I did for my book, Trauma and the Struggle to Open Up. And one of the things that I have seen over the years with a number of trauma clients is that there is very often an experience of wanting to just get over this trauma, wanting
Mm,
to be able to leapfrog over the difficult trauma work, to just get to the other side and just feel better. And there are many ways in which this happens, and I talk about some of these issues in trauma and the avoidant client, how they try to sort of do that and not wrestle with the painful material that they have to wrestle with in one way or the other
mm,
in trauma work. One of the things that very commonly happens is a process known as premature forgiveness. Family members, friends, general culture. Um, puts the idea of forgiveness up on a pedestal. The idea that if you're the right kind of victim, you will be able to forgive the perpetrator. You will be able to get over it quickly. You won't be, playing the pity card and being a victim and that sort of thing. That idea
mm,
is a very common cultural idea. And it really puts pressure on many trauma clients. So that question and seeing a number of my trauma clients wanting to just get over it and, oh, I already forgive. And the problem is with premature forgiveness is that clients will very often kid themselves that they're feeling better, but they're really not. And the problem is that they have to still do this difficult trauma work. So what do you do with clients who are wrestling with this question of forgiveness? And so that's where this workshop comes from, and that's the piece I'm looking at.
yeah.
Why is it a double-edged sword?
Mhm.
Because when clients have done trauma work, when they've done the difficult work, whether they're doing EMDR, whether they're doing CBT, whether they're doing psychodynamic therapy, emotion focused therapy for trauma, regardless of the modality that they're doing, very often they're going to feel, they if they do the work, very often they do reach a point towards the end where they're able to, some will forgive, but at the very least, some will mourn the loss and reach a point where they can feel settled and move on with their lives if they've
Mm,
done good work, um, and they've had a good therapist. And that's not everybody, but if when that happens, and it very often does, we see clients being able to move forward and not holding on to the pain, the shame, the blame, the self-loathing, letting go of that. And that is great to see. And we often do see some level of forgiveness, some level of, at least at the very least, letting go of the suffering. Um,
mhm.
but
I
not
think,
not all
yeah.
clients reach that point, and some clients really don't reach that point. And pushing themselves to pretend to themselves that they have is just putting a lot of pressure on themselves. So what do we do with those clients? That's what we're going to be looking at when clients don't know what to do about this idea of forgiveness. They're struggling with it.
And it's so appropriate for our group who, on top of what you're calling sort of the general cultural pressure is the religious pressure or ideas about forgiveness and the way that families live, so that if this was a brother or a uncle or a whatever, and the client has needs, that the family is now going to have to do something different than they wanted to, and that extra pressure of just be okay with your brother coming for the holiday, and just can't you forgive, and don't you know about, it's just whoo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is going to be really, really relevant and helpful, I think, for our conference
Yeah.
population especially. Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Yeah, and I will emphasize that in as part of what we're going to be looking at with forgiveness, we're also going to be looking at the issue of apologies. I
Mm,
work with family members very often in family work, where I get one family member saying, My dad wants to reconnect. I struggled in my relationship with him. I have children now, and so there are grandchildren, and
mm,
I'm not sure what to do. And it's a family struggle. And I've
mm,
worked with families around this issue. What does a good apology look like? What are the ingredients? What has
mm,
to happen? How and how do you help people be able to navigate that issue and without you feeling as a therapist that how I see it is the way it should be, but letting the family, because you don't always know how people are going to take this stuff. So
mhm,
really being able to have a therapist lens, but asking the right questions so that they can address the issue, so that there's a possibility of some
mm,
kind of if it's atonement, you want to call it, or if it's restitution or some kind of reconciliation. In some cases, in other cases, not.
mhm.
And so
Right,
where do you go with this?
right.
It is really challenging. So we're going to be addressing those issues.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and for letting us get a little peek in. I'm sure many people are going to be inspired to come down on Sunday and the rest of the conference, once you hear about that as well, to hear these really important workshops and titles and in-depth look at some of the really, really big struggles that we have in doing this work. So thank you so much for letting us know and letting us in. And I'm looking forward to seeing all you in January. Okay, thank you.